I am so glad you're here. Thank you for tuning in to our ongoing conversation together. Today, we are going to talk about the unexpected approach that you need to navigate your difficult emotional moments. So, there is this piece of paper attached with a magnet to my fridge, and it's been there for, I think, over 4 years now. And every few months, we do like a big family fridge clean out where we throw things away, we take things down. And every few months, my husband's like, "Do you still need this? Do you still want this piece of paper on there?" And it gives me a moment every time to decide, like, actually, yes, I still need that there. I still want it. And I'm going to share that piece of paper with you today. If you're listening on the pod, I'll read it to you. But if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my handy piece of paper. It's just jotted down notes that I took from a parenting workshop that I attended. And the message in that workshop stuck with me. And I have realized that it is something that I've needed to remind myself over and over again. And it actually became the inspiration for some of the Vibrant Mom new emotional wellness era curriculum that's in the Vibrant Mom Collective. So I'm really attached to this piece of paper, even though I almost have it memorized. It has been a relearning and an unlearning of sorts for me, and I never want to forget it. So even though I'm getting better at applying this little piece of parenting advice to my son as he goes through the different ages and stages, I keep it as a reminder, not for my parenting, but for the way that I want to move toward myself and be with myself when I'm in emotional pain. So my little piece of paper, I'll read it to you. It says, "Don't take away the hard, take away the alone." The point is to help your child to feel less alone in their experience. I'm going to read that first part again. And there's actually some parenting to-dos on this, like things to actually say, a script below what I just read to you. But I want to say it again. Don't take away the hard. Take away the alone. What we need more than a solution to our pain, a resolution of our pain, even an understanding of our pain as human beings. What we really need is to feel less alone in whatever hardship or difficulty we're experiencing. That's kind of the number one protective and resiliency factor for kids. And guess what? As a mental health expert, for adults as well. When we feel isolated and disconnected and stuck in shame or cut off or removed from other people in our pain, our suffering goes up. But when we're able to be in a hard situation, even a private hard situation, and feel less alone in that experience, we're much better able to move through it and navigate through it. And I, at the time of listening in that parenting workshop, wrote furiously those exact words down, and I wrote down the script to say and said, which I'll read for you in just a minute, because I realized at the time, I think my son was about 4 or 5 years old when I was given that specific wording, that I was moving from that toddler stage into like early childhood stage. And my son is a deeply feeling kid. I was realizing that I was trying to get him to feel his feelings a little bit less. I was trying to help him move on from them more quickly. I was trying to help him kind of intellectualize his feelings and be like, no, like, it's actually okay. You don't have to feel that way. Like, you could look at it this way, or look, you could do it this way. I was trying to help him through and move through more quickly his emotions. Not because I wanted to do anything wrong. It's just that I was probably feeling overwhelmed by his big feelings, wasn't sure what I was supposed to do. I wanted him to feel better. I wanted him to feel better quickly. I was trying to take that emotional experience and shrink it down for him so that he would feel better and move along. And what I just read to you is the opposite of that. It's a practicing being with our kiddos in a way where we're not trying to lessen the hard or take away the hard for them as a first line of intervention. That when we do that, we unintentionally leave our kids alone in the pain. We teach them to be afraid of their emotions, uncomfortable with their difficult emotions, less resilient in them because they don't have practice being in them and they don't have practice being them with partnership, with support, with a person who's going to be attuned and present to the emotion and not be in a hurry to make it go away or make it less. And I realized as I was sitting with this framework and trying to figure out how to adjust my strategy with my son, who was having nothing with the way that I was handling it before, by the way, I realized that as a mental health provider, I could make that leap. Like I've had decades of practice and experience with practicing emotional agility and teaching other women to expand their emotional agility skills and relate to their inner worlds with grace and skillfulness and compassion. I realized, oh, I can make this quick little edit and I have the skills and ability to do this for my son. But I realized that I have that ability because if I'm prompted, I know how to do that for myself. And I think the thing that is sometimes missing in parenting advice and conversations is the assumption that parents are doing this for themselves. And so then they should be able to do it for their kids. And I was realizing like, whoa, I don't know that I'm taking away the alone within myself around my hard things. I think I am more often trying to intellectualize while I'm hard, figure it out, problem solve it, move through it as quickly as possible, shrink it down as quickly as possible. I think I was doing that with even all of my skills. So my guess is that you're probably doing a version of that within. And this is actually not a parenting conversation today. It's about using a parenting approach, the wisdom in it, to bring a deep awareness of the reparenting maybe, but just the practical way and the practical approach that we need as women as a first line of support when we are going through difficult emotional moments. And that is to take away the alone feeling on the inside around our pain. Our default, I think, is to try to understand our pain, try to problem solve our way around it, how to move through it as quickly as possible. And to do that, we move the emotional experience up into our minds. That's what I mean by intellectualizing it. We move it up into our minds so that we can try to move away from the emotional experience and get it to move through as quickly as possible and to shrink it down so it feels more comfortable to be with. And I think there are two costs to that. One is I know as a mental health provider that to get the best information from our emotional experiences, we need to practice extending out the amount of time and our ability to signal soothing and a capacity to be with the emotional pain before we do anything about it. We need to be with it long enough to listen to it, to understand it more deeply, and to locate a deeper, like more essential self that's there feeling that pain. And if we're able to be there just long enough and in a workable enough way, using some really important emotional agility skills, then we're able to kind of chart a path forward in the most skillful way. The second cost, unintentional cost of being reactive and avoidant or overwhelmed by our emotions is that we end up missing an opportunity for a deepening, more rewarding, more intimate and enjoyable relationship with ourselves. And guess what? I envision for you as you move into your 40s or move through your 40s that there is this enlivened, deeply enjoyable and precious relationship with yourself that you're slowly building. Your capacity to be with yourself in new ways has never been bigger, actually, after having cared for your kiddos and grown beyond yourself and stretched your capacity to love and be with them beyond what you thought was possible. That is the prime moment for this increased capacity to start to turn its light toward yourself, you with you. So when we intellectualize the hard or our pain as a first response, we unintentionally don't get the really important information we need from that emotion. And then we also end up increasing our suffering because we're not investing in that core, strong relational component that makes emotional pain withstandable, and that increases our emotional resilience over time. So my friend, today, yes, you can think about this in parenting, but I want you to apply this to your relationship with yourself, you with you. The first line of emotional agility, like emotional skillfulness, navigating those emotions skillfully, is to first remember, try to commit this to memory, or if you need to put a Post-it note on your fridge with me, please do so. Don't take away the hard moment. Don't try to exit that hard moment. Take away the alone. And I think that it is a wonderful thing to find connection with other people around our pain. It's an essential thing. But what I'm really passionate about teaching is what women can do in their private moments when they are alone. Because a lot of our emotional world happens privately on the inside. It may be a few days or many hours until we can have a fulfilling, rewarding connection with another person. And in some seasons, we go longer than that before we're able to arrive at a place where there is a present and loving person ready to listen to us, and that we're able to go deeper with that person to get to that deep emotional material. Our lives are busy. We're overscheduled. We've got work and caregiving demands. We don't always have that space with a partner or space with friends. And maybe even there's like a therapist who's wonderful in your world, but there's many days before you're going to see that person again. So we need to have these strategies that we can use on a daily basis to help us deepen our relationship with ourselves and navigate emotional pain with more skill. So commit this to memory or write it down on your own note on your fridge. Don't take away the hard. Take away the alone. The goal is to feel less alone in the experience before you try to understand or influence the experience itself. So here are the first two things that was proposed to me in this parenting workshop to say to your kid instead. It is, I'm so glad you're talking to me about this. It's really important. That's the first statement to say. And then the second statement to say is, and then what happened? Tell me more. I'll repeat those two things again. the first statement to say when your kid is sharing a moment of pain about their day or something difficult that happened with friends. I am so glad you're talking to me about this. It's really important. The second thing to say is, and then what happened? Tell me more. What else? When I was given those two statements, when I was thinking about it from a parenting perspective, I got really nerded out about not what's happening in the parent-child relationship, but the potential of those two statements, those two questions, the potential of them for adult women to use within themselves. I got super excited about it and nerded out about it. And it became the birthplace for the first skill set I teach in the Vibrant Mom pathway when we're talking about our emotional well-being and getting some new skills. And that has to do with building the capacity to be a nurturing self and to take space to contend with our emotional experiences and approach our emotional world first with a nurturing, deep capacity to just kind of sit on the bench with ourselves as we're taking a look at whatever it is that's difficult. It's pausing that impulse to understand, to control, to change, to influence, to move quickly through, to manipulate, to shift. And it's first just taking a seat with ourselves on the bench and like kind of looking out at the park. And the park is like whatever the difficult or painful situation is that we're going through. And our mind is going to want to move us, like propel us through it, to get a solution, to get an answer, to move through it really quickly, because that's what minds do around pain. Minds naturally want to move away from pain as quickly as possible. But there's a real wisdom in first bringing a relational moment to pain rather than a problem-solving moment to the pain. The unexpected approach that you need to navigate your difficult emotional moments is taking time in your day to simply sit on the bench with yourself, to take a moment and say to yourself, I'm so glad I'm taking a moment to be with myself in this pain. It's really important. And then to stay in that pain and just kind of like take a look at it, to be able to say, what is it that is difficult? And what else am I feeling? And what else am I feeling? And then what feelings might be underneath those first ones? And not why am I feeling this way and what do I do about it as a first line of questioning, but just what else? Tell me more. What other feelings are there? I'm irritated and I'm annoyed and I'm frustrated. What else? I'm actually also worried and afraid and feeling pressured. And what could be underneath that? Well, I feel like embarrassed if it doesn't go well, or I feel lost or unsure. We need to increase our capacity to stay with the pain long enough to really be able to understand the layers and the different shades of color and the nuances of what we're going through so that we can best help ourselves through it. But we can only understand that nuance if we have the capacity to notice that we're in a moment of pain. We're able to take a break from the flow of life to just first be with ourselves and create a connected, soothing, nurturing emotional moment. Not trying to make ourselves feel better or problem solve the emotional situation, but to take away the alone in the difficult or hard thing that we're experiencing. This can actually be more difficult to do than one would expect. So today I'm telling you the what. And over time, you'll learn more clues about the how to do it. But if you're ready to get this skill set and go deeper, check out the collective. It'll be linked in the show notes. I'll give you all the tools and strategies and the how to. But it is so important to know what you're moving toward. So we're moving toward a relationship with ourselves that has a deepening and growing capacity to be in hard moments, emotionally painful moments, and to be able to take away the alone charge within ourselves, to be able to lessen our tension and our resistance around our emotional pain, and be able to be with ourselves in a soothing and nurturing way that reminds us that we can get through almost anything if we're not alone. The very last question that is written on this piece of paper that the parenting expert was giving me some advice on is, do you want me to keep listening? Or do you want me to help you think of things to do? Do you want me to keep listening? Or do you want me to help you think of things to do? When I read those 3 questions in that order, I realized I was like not really meaningfully giving enough airtime for the first 2 questions. And the last question has 2 questions in it. And I was kind of blowing by the first part and just going like, do you want me to help you think of things to do? What could you do at recess next time? Who could you play with instead? What could we do in the morning to make it easier for you? What do you need to feel better right now? Do you need a hug? Do you need a whatever? I was just moving right away to, do you want me to help you think of things to do to feel better? I was so eager to help my son feel better and move through. And I was blowing past, I was unintentionally making him feel more alone in his pain by blowing past those first questions and going right into problem solving, how to make it better. And I think there is a time and space for that problem solving. How can we move through this? What do we need to do? Absolutely. It's the 4th question, though, on the list. It's not the first thing to do. I'm wondering, friend, how you might be leaving yourself alone when you're encountering hardship within, self-doubt, insecurity, feelings of shame or worthlessness, anxiety, frustration, overwhelm. That's emotional hardship. We feel all of those things all the time as human beings. It's part of this beautiful and messy human experience. I wonder if you're accidentally leaving yourself alone when you, in a well-meaning way, ask yourself, what could I do? I want to think of things to do. What could I do to feel better? If that's your first question, I wonder if you're accidentally leaving yourself alone. I wonder if you're accidentally reinforcing avoidance around painful emotions. And I wonder if you're missing the data, the real data that your emotions are trying to signal to you, and therefore you're having similar emotional experiences on repeat without resolution. And I wonder if you're missing out on this big, beautiful, growing and evolving relationship with yourself that is available to you and is calling out to you in this midlife moment. So that's why I keep this note on my refrigerator. It's taking me years to unlearn the habit of moving toward fixing or lessening my son's pain, and instead really practicing just the relationship space between us. So he knows that I'm not afraid of his emotions. I'm not overwhelmed by his emotions. Even though they might be difficult or inconvenient for me, I welcome them. So it serves as a reminder for the type of parenting relationship I want to provide for him. But more importantly, I think it serves as a reminder every time I notice it when I pay attention. What's hard right now for me? What could I do to take away the alone within myself around that hard? Am I flexing the skill sets that I teach? Am I taking time out in my day to look toward and pay attention toward the hard? Am I sitting on that bench next to myself? Am I bringing a nurturing self to the me that's going through the painful life moment? And are we just taking a look together at what's hard? Am I signaling to myself, it's really important. It's okay to be feeling this way. I'm so glad I'm taking the time to get to know myself and be in this pain without solving it. And am I saying to myself, what else? And what else am I feeling? And what might be alongside that? And what might be underneath that? And giving myself like a reassurance. I'll keep listening to myself as long as it takes until I really get what's going on. And of course, I will find things to do to help myself, but not as a first step. I'm curious what you think about this, friend. Leave me a note in the comments or pop into the collective and join the conversation on a deeper level. And maybe you'll be inspired to put a note of your own on your fridge, reminding you the unexpected thing you need when you're in difficult moments is not a problem-solving plan to move through them, but is first a deep, nurturing relational space within to take away the alone of your experience, to reinforce a compassionate and nurturing relationship with yourself, and to be able to pay attention and take a look at the data that's in the emotion deep enough and long enough so you really get a better sense of what you're going through and then get better clues to what you might need going forward.